Hostage, a Todd Mills mystery, book 3 in the series. Author R.D. Zimmerman, publisher Scribble Pub. Narrator Eric Aust. Chapter 5. These past couple of months, Elliot had never been happier. He wasn't really sure why. Everything just seemed so clear, all the complex questions so black and white as he now walked down Nicollet Mall, the main street in downtown Minneapolis, with his small nylon backpack slung over one shoulder. He couldn't help it. He just wanted to stop there at the corner of Nicollet and 7th, rip off his little black tam, and hurl it into the air just like Mary Tyler Moore. Sure, he thought, you can turn the world on with your smile. Everyone has that power, that magic. He used to spend so much time worrying. What was he doing with his life? Why wasn't he more successful? When would he ever get out of that stupid restaurant business and become a real serious artist? And for what? Where had it gotten him? Everything was so much simpler. You live and you die, and he'd probably be dead by fall, if not a whole hell of a lot sooner. A true Midwesterner from Omaha, in his lexicon. Elliot had always been tall and gangly with long Ichabod Crane legs and arms, but of course he was now thinner than he'd ever been in his entire skinny life. He had a long face with a little mouth, dark eyes, and for the past few months he'd been sporting a little goatee, a sprout of light brown hair on his chin and above his lip. He'd never been handsome, though some people found him cute. Even now, at 43, probably because of his lankiness, his smile, and, well, his artistic bent, namely his hip clothes, the gold hoop earrings that he wore in each ear, and so on. For a long time he'd been worried that he'd never had a long-time companion. He had a girlfriend once, way back in his freshman year at college, and over the year a couple of guys he used to date. But being unattached was just making this so much easier. If he had a lover now, Elliot would worry about leaving him behind. As he'd done for the last 10 years he'd worked here, he ducked into the brick building on the corner, entering the marble lobby and walking directly to the escalator. The restaurant, Jerome's, was on the second floor, connected to the Skyway. That system of second-floor passages and bridges that turned the entire downtown into one big ant farm. And as he rode the escalator upward, he realized he could walk this route blind, no problem. Like his best chum, Kurt, who'd worked here since the restaurant had first opened, until over a year ago when his health really went to pot, Elliot had spent so much time here. He'd worked 4 evening shifts and 2 lunches a week, making a pretty good buck too, for he was a pro at humoring the customers and anticipating their every need. He got to paint as much as he wanted during the week and work an invigorating job. All in all, not bad. Fun people too. Oh, the parties they'd had after work, drinking wine and smoking pot, laughing and dancing. God, he used to dance a lot, didn't he? He should, he knew, be doing more of that while he could still walk, but frankly, he just didn't have the energy anymore. As he neared the top, he switched his black nylon pack to his left shoulder and prepared to disembark. Stepping off the mechanical steps, however, he failed to see the figure to his right, and blam! He ran directly into an older woman, nearly knocking her off her feet. "Oh, I'm sorry," Elliot exclaimed, squinting at her. "I'm so sorry, ma'am. Did I hurt you?" No. You sure?" The lady, short with gray hair, wasn't the least bit fazed, and without even bothering to reply, she scurried on to some store. Elliot, however, just stood there. Oh, brother. His peripheral vision was the pits and getting worse. Not by the week, but by the day. You just gotta remember to turn your head side to side, he told himself. Scan. You gotta scan, man. Scan from left to right, right to left. Jerome's was one of the fanciest restaurants downtown, a small place known for its elegant atmosphere, its Paris-trained chef, and the wine. A great list, fabulous reds. The best in town, no sandwich joint. This was where top execs came to linger over pheasant consomme, medallions of lamb, and corporate strategies in the evening. The place filled with first the pre-theater crowd, and later the wealthy romantics, and still later the sopranos, baritones, actors, and rock stars who sought out anything but flyover food. Elliot himself had waited on Joni Mitchell, Julie Andrews, and with the trembling hands, the hot Canoe Reeves, his fave. "Hey, Leo," said Elliot as he cruised in the entrance. "Elliot, how great to see you," replied the owner, a paunchy, red-haired guy from behind a podium. "You're looking good?" "Feeling good." "Well, that's wonderful." "But you know what?" said Elliot, stopping and leaning an elbow on a corner of the podium and studying the other. "You look tired, man. Are you still putting in 80 and 90 hours a week?" Leo smoothed the lapels of his crisp tuxedo, tightening his bow tie. "Something like that, anyway." "Shame on you, Leo. You gotta get out of here. You gotta get out and take a bite of life before life eats you." "Ah, so says the wise man who's here for the free lunch. Go on, get out of here," said Leo. "We've got a really busy lunch hour, but why don't you go into the kitchen and nab something to eat? Everyone will be thrilled to see you." "Will do." A waitress whooshed by. "E1, you look great." "Hey, Kate, feeling great." "Hi, Elliot. Long time no see," shouted one of the busboys. "Hey, Rob." And then, "Hey, Tim. Hey, Pete. Hey, Liz." And on. Elliot knew all of them, even these folks on the lunch shift, all of them except one new waitress who'd been hired after Elliot had left 5 months ago. He cruised into the kitchen, a cramped space packed with stainless steel counters, huge refrigerators, and gas stoves with blazing flames. The lunch dance was just cranking up to disco speed, and lest he smash into something, Elliot made a concerted effort to turn his head from side to side. "You are," he told himself, "the scan man." "Hey, Paul," Elliot called to the chef who was darting around. The head chef, a stout fellow whose energy level was permanently stuck on full tilt, waved his chopping knife and managed what was almost a smile. "Have you come back to work, you lazy bum?" "No way. I like my rag from a jar," he snarled. Looking around, Elliot saw that the chef de cuisine and chef garde manager were busy slicing and dicing a cornucopia of definitely non-Midwestern veggies, from huge mushrooms to furry green stalks. Everything here was made from scratch, and back in the corner, the pastry chef, a young woman with a flushed red face, was furiously blow-torching ramekins of creme relay, one by one, to a sinful, crunchy brown. "Wow, busy," said Elliot. "And what is it? Not even 11:30? What do you got, a banquet or something today?" "This joint's hopping." "No shit," said Kate, a trim woman with a short brown hair, coming in from behind. "Haven't you heard?" "No," replied Elliot, feigning ignorance. Big VIP today," called someone else. "Yeah," shouted one of the waitresses, "featuring one very ignorant prick in particular." "Cool," said Elliot. "Who is it? Movie star?" "If only." Kate shook her head. "Johnny Clarington. You know, the congressman is having a round-table lunch here." "Ew, icky. The devil himself," replied Elliot, wrinkling his nose. "Glad I don't work here anymore. And don't I wish I had the day off. Instead, we're going to be waiting on him and about 25 bigwig execs whom Clarington is coddling for donations. $5,000 a plate. Can you believe it?" "Paul," called Elliot from across the room, "be sure and cook up something yummy. Oh, and stir in a little bit of that salmonella that you hit a few patrons with every now and then." Paul flung a paper-thin tomato slice at him. Kate charged off, grabbing some salt and peppers, and then scurrying back into the main dining room. Elliot stood there. Not a good time to help himself to a free lunch, which the owner, Leo, always made available to Elliot. Elliot, who was getting more sympathy from more frightened people than he would ever have imagined, particularly since Kurt had croaked. If they hadn't understood before, they did now. Elliot was going to die too. "Oh, big deal," he thought with a roll of his eyes. There was no time for such thoughts, not today, and there was no time to grab a meal. Much too chaotic. Everyone looked so uptight, so busy. He drifted over to the stainless steel bread drawers, slid one of them open, and pulled out a hot roll. This would do, he thought, munching down on it and glancing around. He really couldn't stay anyway. Just get in, do your business, and get out. Those were his instructions. Elliot backed away, turned his head from side to side, and took it all in. The madhouse kitchen with the stereotypical uptight chef, the stereotypical gay waiters, the stereotypical pretty and fun waitresses. He loved them all, didn't want to hurt them. That was the one thing he'd insisted on when they were planning all this. Nothing that would injure any of his friends. They were way cool. But it should be okay. It really should. So, carrying his backpack, he slipped down the side hall as if he were going to the employees. John, instead, he stopped in front of the third door, glanced once toward the kitchen, and ducked in. It was the supply room with paper towels and sponges and dish soap and chemicals lining one wall, stacks of clean laundry on another, and bags of soiled linens on the floor. Oh, yes, he'd been right. This would do nicely. Working quickly, Elliot did exactly as he'd been told, unzipping his backpack, reaching in and pressing the start button on the device. Immediately, the red digital numbers came to life and started ticking down the seconds. Very good. He then zipped up the backpack and buried it beneath several bags of linen. Simple. No one was going to find it back here. Nope. Not in the next 90 minutes, anyway. He checked the scene one last time, smiled to himself. If only everything else went so easily, and opened the door. Stepping into the hall, he slammed right into Hal, one of the waiters and an old pal. "I'm sorry, Hal," exclaimed Elliot. "I'm really sorry. Did you know I'm going blind? I mean, I really am. It's this stupid cytomegalovirus retinitis. It's a herpes virus, and it's eating at my eyes, blurriness. Floaters, actually. I'm losing my peripheral vision, and I didn't even see you." "Don't worry, man," replied Hal, a tiny guy who was unable to hide his surprise at Elliot's candor. Elliot started squinting and looked around. "I thought this was the guy's room, but obviously..." "No, it's the next door." "Oh, cool. I see. Yeah, I see. Right, there." Elliot put on a big grin. "Thanks, man." As Hal scurried away, Elliot went into the men's room. It always freaked people out whenever he talked about AIDS or any of its symptoms. But he didn't care. He believed in being real up front about the whole thing. About not hiding what was wrong or how it was affecting him. His appetite or lack thereof, his loss of weight, his pathetic eyes, and how he'd been on AZT 4 or 5 years ago, but hadn't been real careful about taking the pills. Okay, so he skipped a day every now and then, and hence the virus within his body had developed a resistance to the drug. He was as frank as he could be because, after all, he'd contracted a virus and people needed to know about it, understand it. HIV and AIDS were everywhere, lurking unseen more often than not, so if he could make it a little more visible, that would make it a whole lot more real. He was the first to admit that it was a brutal disease, and if he could shove people's faces in it, well then, maybe they'd be a little more careful when it came to sex. Besides, there had been enough shame in his life. He was one of those queers who'd played with dolls when he was a little kid, ever since he was 5 or so, and he'd hid that part of him for years. But not now. No more hiding anything. Particularly not with AIDS. No way was he going to keep quiet. No way was he going to make a silent exit. No. He thought with a sly grin. He couldn't wait to tell his story, blurted out to the entire country. Sure, he was pissed about having AIDS and everything, but he had his own agenda, and he was going out in fucking style. Big fucking style. Exiting the restroom, Elliot passed down the short hall and back into the kitchen where Paul was barking orders, pissed about the quality of the salmon, stressed to the max by the $5,000 plates he had to get out in a half hour. The sauté chef was going full tilt, madly adding some 25-year-old balsamic vinegar to a sauté pan of delicate mushrooms, and the pastry chef, looking more like a spot welder at this point, was torching the last of the creme brulees. Taking it all in, Elliot departed, amazed at how quickly life could spoil. Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold. to offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides. And in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.